ready, I'm ready to get in the game. Well, then it's time to pause and play.
All right, so we're back with a new episode of the In Discernment Series. I am Father Luke.
I am Brother Andrew.
And we talked about desolation last time, so we hope we didn't leave you too sad and down in the dumps.
Oh boy, I hope not.
But because we care, we're now going to talk about consolation.
Consolation.
We should have come up with a jingle, but we didn't.
That's okay. We're melodious.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Find some consolation
for me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Look at your soul and analyze it to me.
Wow, that was pretty good. A little jazzy blues version. Okay, so consolation, what's that about? So desolation, we talked about, was this disturbance of the soul, kind of leaves you unrest and at peace. We talked about how you can pull the positive out of that. Now we're going to talk about how we can pull the negative out of the... No, we're just kidding. Consolation is all good. It leads to good. Brother Andrew, can you kind of... We've got the context, I guess. Okay, these are the two interior movements St. Ignatius talks about, that Pope Francis is developing in these audiences, these speeches he's giving. And can you kind of give us a definition now of consolation? So the desolation, like we said, is disturbance of the soul, unrest. What is consolation, Brother Andrew?
Well, consolation is like a little kid walking with his parents down the road, and he sees, he goes in front of this little store, and it's the window, you can see it from the street, and he sees all these chocolates and candies and ice cream, and his heart just lights up, and he's just like, whoa. And not only does he see that, his parents say, okay, little Jimbo, you can take whatever you can have 3 of whatever you want. And he goes in and he gets to feast on these treats, right? And
except his name is Jimbo. That would put me in desolation.
Well, some people are out, there might be a Jimbo listening to us.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So you should
not want to offend
careful.
anyone. Sorry, Jimbo. I'm actually the coach of my college alma mater football team, so he's not a good coach, unfortunately.
Oh man. Well,
that's neither here nor there. So go.
That's neither here nor there. That's very good point. So consolation is this joy. It's an experience of interior joy that obviously is much deeper than just like, candy. It's you get to see God's presence in all things. Pope Francis says it strengthens your faith, it strengthens your hope, it helps you to do good things, and it's, at least in my experience, sometimes when you're praying, you feel like God is there and you're just enjoying it, right? It's not like that happens to me that often, but the experience of consolation for me, that's the most common, is this inner strength or harmony that comes after having battled, right, in desolation. Yeah. But it's this inner harmony, this peace that comes, that shows that God is making you stronger than the trial, and you can keep on going forward, right, with this inner peace, this inner harmony. That's probably the most typical form of consolation. And before I hand it off to you, Ignatius gives this great image of consolation. He says it's like a drop of water on a sponge. That's consolation.
That was even louder than a drop of water on the sponge. I think.
Well, I had to make it audible. I mean,
oh, that's true, because it is a podcast. So this podcast has special effects brought to you by Andrew Torrey. Okay, so it talks about an experience of interior joy that lets us see God's presence in all things, like that ice cream store, just goodness all around.
Yes.
The person experiencing consolation never gives up in the face of difficulties because he or she always experiences a peace that is stronger than trial. And a person feels enveloped in God's presence. And I thought this was really cool too, that it's not a passing euphoria, because the euphoria is sort of like you're sort of in a daze and you're kind of controlled by some greater force than your own. You don't even remember it afterwards. That's not what this is, because you're enveloped into God's presence, but it's a presence that respects your freedom and never forces your will. And so like thinking of St. Ignatius as he read the life of St. Francis and the lives of the saints, he was seeing these people that did a really hard things to give up all your inheritance, literally strip down naked in public and start following the Lord. leaving everything behind, the fortune, your career, all your plans, the plans that your dad had for you, like San Francis did in Assisi. Um, how do you explain how he could do that? Saint Anthony going out into the desert. How do you explain how they did that? Unless it
Yeah.
was this being enveloped in God's presence, and all of a sudden, the pearl of great price. I'm gonna sell everything else. I'm leaving everything because I've found the pearl of great price. That's what Saint Ignatius is talking about. It's not.
But that's hard to do. Like, how are you going to sell everything? Like, how could you do that? Like today, like I can't imagine somebody selling everything and like how where do they get the strength to do that? To like, how do they do that?
Consolation. So it's literally it's that's what it is. It's not your strength. Like both of us, you and I, Brother Andrew, we've taken three very countercultural vows: poverty, chastity, obedience. It's like everything that the world would say, like if you want to be happy, make a lot of money, I don't know, be with a lot of women and do whatever you lo que le pega la gana for all of our do whatever you want if you feel like doing at the moment. And then we say no, poverty, no money, chastity, live a life of celibacy, and obedience. I'm gonna obey whatever my superiors think is best. That doesn't make sense just on a human level. So God's presence is real, and if He's asking you to do something, He's gonna give you the strength to do it. How do you know, Brother Andrew, if there's like in the midst of good feelings, how do you know if it's coming from God or if it's just like a passing thing? Because like life is a roller coaster, has its ups and downs. Like he talked about false consolations. I don't know, did any of that kind of strike you that you want
Yeah,
to share?
yeah. So like he says, so going back to what the description of consolation that Ignatius gives, he calls it a drop on a sponge, right? Like it's soft, it's soft, it's intimate. It just flows right in without like hurting or how do you say hitting the surface in a loud way, right? It just soaks right in. That's authentic consolation.
Absorbed.
Absorbed. That's the right verb. But Pope Francis says that its imitations are noisier and flashier. So like if like imagine that you're the evil one, right? And you know that you've got somebody in front of you who is trying to do good, is trying to follow God, right? And you want to convince that person to like not like to slowly veer off the course, right? So you can't throw like how would you say like this huge temptation bomb at the person, right? Like that person's going to realize, oh, that's not good, right? So the devil, the evil one, the tempter, or even sometimes the tempter has to use a different language. He has to be subtler, and so he wants to attract us. So he can't like throw a huge, I don't know, look at pornography type of temptation because we know, oh no, that's obviously wrong. But he's like, well, why don't you? I mean, it's not a sin, but like it's going to give you a little pleasure if you just like do something that's not as bad, you know. And so
I got another example as you're talking.
yeah,
And I was reading this. Like, imagine the person that, okay, I want to follow God. All of a sudden I notice a friend of mine's acting a little different. And they say, oh, I went on this retreat. Why don't you come with me in the next one? And so the person goes on this retreat, and God is really there at the retreat speaking to this person.
yeah,
And they get really excited. I think the devil can very easily confuse that and put a false consolation in there. For example, now everyone in this retreat is just like saying, hey, I'm so proud of you. Like how you opened up and how you prayed and how you came here. And all of a sudden you're like, this feels really good. And then like they send you a text and it's like, hey, like you inspired me so much by your example and stuff. And then you get a letter in the mail. And all of a sudden, like rather than you were focused on God and you had this great consolation. Now you've like shifted and the devil's kind of shifted you towards like the
yeah.
praise you're getting for what
That's
you're
a
like going
great
to retreat and being
example.
generous, all that stuff. And all of a sudden, that when the letter stopped coming, the text stopped coming, and I was saying, you know what? Actually, I mean, that retreat was nice, but all of a sudden you lost like what was really giving you the deep joy, which was God. I thought of an example, Andrew, because we do retreats all the time at the high school,
Yeah,
and you see God at work in those 3 days of the Kairos retreat, or you see them during their junior retreat. That's like a one night overnight thing, or the freshman retreat during the day. And I'm thinking like, wow, I just hope this person can like really stick with it. And some do, and some like not judge anyone, but some like maybe I don't see them again for a long time, like at mass or in other ones, they're there in adoration, they're there in mass, they're really trying.
yeah,
There's a true consolation bringing them to go to that adoration 2 weeks later. The
yeah.
false consolation might be like I just feel so good and after this retreat. And
Right.
then, like if you're focused, like Saint Bernard says it, the devil can get us focusing on the consolations of God rather than the God of consolations. Brother Andrew, what's the
Ooh.
difference?
Oh man. Well, it's the same thing between the difference between loving our parents and loving what our parents give us. Like
Mm.
how unjust would it be for us to love our parents because they give us what we want? Like that's the reason
And
we love them.
only because of that. And
Like
that's it.
that's so shallow. Like there's like it's so like, it's against the fourth commandment. Honor your mother and father. Like you should just love them because of who they are. Well, they gave you God brought you into the world through them, and because of their love for you. You know, so we should love God not for what He gives us, and what He gives us at the beginning is to attract us and to show us that He is the source of all goodness and all beauty, right? And so we should always, always, always treasure His gifts and rejoice in them. But we should also realize, like St. Bernard says, that, well, the source of all that, of all those gifts must be infinitely, infinitely, infinitely beyond all
Wow.
my categories, right?
Wow. I want to quick shout out. I love this story. So my dad, well, like we'd move a lot, and my parents would be discerning. Little shout out to mom and dad.
Woo!
Love you guys. So, they're discerning. Okay, are we gonna? Like, there was always a couple options my dad's company would offer him. It's okay. Which one's the best? And there was one time where he really couldn't decide. There were so many good options. Well, there's really two in particular that just like really got his attention. He thought this is to be so good for my family, for me, for my career, for all these things. And talking to his spiritual director, who was a legionary, um, asked him one question, and it made it abundantly clear to my dad. And he said, um, "Remember who has been the source of all your blessings." And it just clicked in that moment for my dad. I remember him telling me that story, and that's always been very clear to me of like really good discernment and just a good spiritual director and the importance of having someone accompanying you on the spiritual journey. Because one of the places you're sending your kids to a Catholic school, there's a Catholic parish right there. The other place was on a base. This was gonna be in Africa. It was on a base, and you're only gonna get the Eucharist at best once a week. Whereas my dad and my mom have been trying to go, like, they'll try to go to mass during the week. I think now they go to daily mass. And so it's like, okay, here's this one good option where it's like you have the Catholic faith for your kids, and then another one they'd be going to like a private, like international school or something. The one you have the faith, you have the church, you have the Eucharist. The other one, it's like you're gonna have to go off the base to get that, or it's just gonna come to you once a week. And this one spiritual director just saying that, realizing like, as my dad looked back at the book of his life, thinking like, we have it so good in the Rawicki family, and that is not because we've made all the right choices. It's because he has been leading us. And so I'm gonna go where I can get more of him, and that made it the discernment so easy, right? Because he wasn't looking for the consolations of God, but the God of consolations, the
Mm,
source of those blessings. So you just reminded me of that little tidbit. So I'm sure there's a lot of consolation in my dad's heart in that moment.
that's
And
awesome.
yeah. So,
That's
Brother Andrew, St. Ignatius gives a rule. Maybe we can move on to that.
yes,
Into
yeah,
this
yeah.
because
So
the
he
true consolation, false consolation. What is the rule to kind of know the difference?
exactly. So well, in his little book called Spiritual Exercises, Saint Ignatius gives this really good rule that also helps us to see even desolation, right? Um, so he says that for those of you who like spiritual exercises, it's number 333, so it's pretty easy to remember. He
Okay, three
says,
through three.
Ignatius says, we ought to note well the course of the thoughts, and if the beginning, the middle, and the end is all good, then it's a sign of the good angel. That's what St.
Hmm.
Ignatius calls like the good influence, the good angel. But, St. Ignatius says, if in the course of the thoughts, which the source brings, it ends in something bad, something that distracts you, something that's not as good as what you decided to do, or if it weakens you, disturbs you, takes away your peace, takes away your quiet, then that's a clear sign that this thought or feeling proceeds from the evil spirit, right?
Hmm.
Who is our enemy, right? Um, so it's a really good rule because it helps us to analyze. It's this what we should do also in the pause and play prayer, right? In the step 3, peruse, is we need to look at, okay, I was angry today. Oh, well, why was I angry? Well, I was angry because I don't know. Let's say you volunteered at a pro-life in a pro-life group, and you were angry because there was a woman who went in and you weren't able to stop her from going in, right? And so this emotion that you feel, anger, what are you angry at? You're angry at that maybe that person had an abortion. That's a good thing to be angry at, right? But if you stick with that emotion, okay, so what am I going to do about that? Well, I'm gonna shout at the next person that comes and well, no, like, so you have an angry emotion. That's a good thing, right? But then how does that anger take shape? It should take shape in being channeled in the right way, which is, I want to protect life. What's the best way to protect life? Not by getting angry at other people or shouting, but by welcoming them, right? And showing them a kind face and helping them to see the beauty of life, right? And to be there, a supporting person, right? And so it's important to see like how these thoughts evolve. And so if the thought or the emotion leads us to something bad, like shouting at that person going into the abortion clinic, then that's a sign that somebody's trying to distract us from some good, right?
Yeah.
But if we see that this angry emotion takes shape and channels us, gives us energy to keep on doing good things and to purify maybe imperfect ways of trying to do good before, then that's a clear sign that, okay, the Holy Spirit's at work here.
I like that. And going with that example, so it's a good thing to go pray or to go support the pro-life movement, to support, truly give women choice to choose life by offering all the means possible so that the decision is not forced and it's not pressured. Okay, so you want to join this pro-life group, and the beginning is going to be okay. Like, so we look at the beginning, middle, and end of this whole process. Like Brother Andrew was saying, he was kind of focused on the end of that. Like, okay, there was anger at the end or whatever. Like the consolation being, okay, I'm going to join this good thing. I'm going to do this good thing. Okay, that seems like good so far. But are you doing it because you have this real desire to help and provide for these women? Or let's say, like, dumb example, but let's say you want an excuse to get out of the house and avoid your responsibilities at home. And that consolation, that like good desire to do good is coming from a bad place. So that's not good, because you can do so much pro-life good by loving on your kids, right? And so,
Yeah.
but let's say you're loving on your kids and you still feel like, no, I feel like God is really asking me to do. Okay, well, the beginning is good so far. And then the middle. So now all of a sudden it's like you're there, and then you find yourself like just talking about yourself the whole time. Or isn't it great? Like, I don't know, I got 12 kids at home, but here I am giving my time to the pro-life movement, all this stuff. And all of a sudden, okay, like now it's like the middle is bad, because while you're doing it, while you're carrying out this good thing, it's all of a sudden become like a pretext for you to kind of be presumptuous and make it all about you. Okay, so now let's say that's not there. No, like I'm sweating it out. I'm doing good. I'm praying for these people as they're walking, hopefully away from the abortion clinic, but you're praying, you're doing your best. And then he talked about like the end. Oh yeah, like at the end of all this, at the end of the day, let's say like you are angry, or let's say like you get home and you're just like you're more controlling because you're looking at your husband or your kids, or because I'm gonna give an example of parents, but like you did all this good thing and now like you get back to school the next day and you're judging all the people that didn't go to the pro-life movement because like I did and you didn't, and like you must not care about life and women and kids and all this stuff. And like again, the devil's knocked off. It started off great. It was going great. But now the devil has turned that true consolation, that desire to do good, overcome trials. I don't care what people are saying. All of a sudden, you care so much more about yourself, the consolations, the feelings. You want praise for what you did, and you're judging other people, and that's not good either. And he said, like, you're like the Pharisee who was praying, oh, I'm so glad I'm not like this tax collector and all that stuff. All of a sudden, it's been twisted again. So those are the things that like you can look out for and be okay, this is not true consolation. This is not really coming from God. It's not like, okay, it's all bad now. It's just simply, okay, purify that, like in the sense of bring it back to its good source, like the gem that was there, the pearl that was there, and try to dust off the other parts.
Yeah, exactly. And what you said there at the end is like when the person, like you're judging people because they didn't do the pro-life thing that you did right at the end, this thing. That's a good example of seeing how, of recognizing the style of our enemy, right? Because our enemy knows a lot about us, right? And knows like Pope Francis says, like the passwords, the way to get inside of us, to get inside of our heart, are the passwords to our hearts. And so he takes things that are good about us and he uses it to twist it, right? And so it's very good to be attentive to that, right? So I think I think there's a question that's coming up for me, right? I
All
think
right, yeah. So is it about that time?
oh man, it is that time.
Okay. We got two more cards here, folks. We've been picking one each episode, as you know. There are two numbers here. Brother Andrew's gonna pick one, and I'm gonna come up with a relevant
Oh boy. Oh
stump the
boy.
brother.
Stump the brother. All right. Related to consolation somehow.
Optical
I will
illusion.
pick the one on your left.
Stage left.
There you go.
Number 4. Okay.
Number 4.
So we're talking about consolation. I want to ask you, what are the 4, like, okay, you know that I want you to sing it.
Okay.
Like, these are a few of my favorite things.
When the dog bites,
No,
when
but
the
no.
bee
But you have to
stings.
come up with your own 4 and then sing them.
Oh my goodness.
Like, what are your
Okay.
4 of your favorite little, like, Brother Andrew, Tori, like these 4 little things, like toe socks or something. I don't know.
Okay.
And
The
then you have
first
to sing
one.
it.
The first one is. I need to think of them all. Should I sing them and then explain, or think
We
of them
could do the
all?
first one is like when the, I don't know, something.
Okay. When the green parakeets fly by. Okay, because I love
Oh.
green parakeets here in Rome. They're so awesome. They always make me think of God
I
because in many occasions I have been in a difficult moment walking by myself and they just fly by and they're just like laughing or whatever, making noise, and they always comfort me. I always think of
Okay,
God.
so when the green parakeets fly.
Yes. When there's honey at breakfast.
Oh,
Because
I would have to agree with you there.
I like honey.
Homemade. Oh, and it's homemade and
Yeah,
fresh and good and
exactly.
real and juicy and thick and sticky.
And the next one would be when there's fresh gelato, going off with the food again. I
Okay,
just
he
love
must be hungry.
gelato.
And he is hungry. He was telling me that before we started this one.
um, um, and then when my brother is there to listen to me, then I just feel so not mad.
There you have it, folks. Those are the 4 things. I think it was when the parakeets fly, when there's honey on the table, and when there's fresh gelato, and when his brother is there to listen, then he doesn't feel.
So mad.
Because people, God is going to send you the consolation you need so you don't feel so mad. And so to make sure you experience those consolations, understand them, perceive them, we cannot just go around all day playing.
We gotta do some pausing, folks.
Pause and play. Peace.
Peace.